All right, haven't done a video in a while, so I'm going to do a rapid fire NFL draft, mock draft 2015. Let's start off with the first pick. LA Rams trade up so they can get the best quarterback in the draft, Jared Goff, out of Cal. They get him in there next to Tavon Austin and Todd Gurley. Hopefully, he replace Nick Foles. They're a 7-9 team. If he can just help them out a little bit, it could go a long way. The next pick, you got the Eagles. They traded up on a quarterback as well. They get the other guy, Carson Wentz, out of North Dakota State. With the third pick, the Chargers on the clock. I think they help out Philip Rivers here. Get an offensive tackle, Laramie Tunsil, out of Ole Miss, to protect Philip Rivers. Now, with the fourth pick, Dallas got a lot of options. I had them up until today, picking Jalen Ramsey, the cornerback out of Florida State. But I'm hearing Jerry Jones wants Ezekiel Elliott, and if he wants Ezekiel Elliott, he's going to get Ezekiel Elliott. The running back out of Ohio State gets him at pick number 4 to go in there and play offense with Dez Bryant, Tony Romo, and Jason Witten in Dallas. Now, Jaguars are on the clock. I think they consider highly Miles Jack and Joey Bosa here, but ultimately go with the best player in the draft at pick number 5, Jalen Ramsey. Get him on there on that defense. They're trying to get Norman. They got Prince Mukamara. They got Jonathan Cypher and Tashawn Gibson, the best defensive backfield Jacksonville's had in a while if they get Jalen Ramsey at pick number 5. Now, number 6, I think Baltimore considers Miles Jack, but ultimately likes the better player here, Joey Bosa. A steal at pick number 6, as much as I hate to see him play for Baltimore, being a Bengals fan. I think Joey Bosa goes 6 to the Ravens. Now, 7th, 49ers consider Paxton Lynch, I think, here. They consider Ronnie Stanley, the offensive tackle out of Notre Dame, but I think they ultimately go with the smarter pick, DeForest Buckner, defensive end out of Oregon, 6'7", 290-pound senior. Go in there and replace Aldon Smith. Browns now. I think Hugh Jackson's going to start making good draft picks for his team, and they're going to start turning things around. So, with that being said, I've got the Browns taking the best player available at this point, Miles Jack, going in there and playing next to Barkevious Mingo at the outside linebacker position. Be a hell of an athlete there for Cleveland. I think they wait to get a quarterback. I think they go and get a receiver in the second round, get Miles Jack with the 8th pick. This is a 100% no-brainer. Vernon Hargreaves is available at pick number 9. He will go play for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I will bet any type of money on that. Vernon Hargreaves, 9th to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to go play alongside Altron Werner. Sorry, I'm a little sick right now. Getting used to this new weather. Coming in, Giants, I think they go offensive line if Ezekiel Elliott isn't available here. I think they get Ronnie Stanley, offensive tackle, out of Notre Dame at pick number 10, 11. I think they like Shaq Lawson, Chicago Bears. I think they like Shaq Lawson at defensive end out of Clemson. But ultimately, I think they like more Leonard Floyd, the outside linebacker out of Georgia. 6'6", 245-pound pass rusher. Go in there and help out that Chicago defense. Next, the Saints. I think this is a no-brainer as well. If Sheldon Rankins, the defensive tackle out of Louisville, is available at pick number 12, I think he goes to New Orleans and starts helping out that awful, and I mean awful, New Orleans Saints defense. 6'1", 300-pounder out of Louisville. Sheldon Rankins, pick number 12. Number 13, I think the Dolphins strongly consider cornerback here, but I think they think Jake Copeland's the better pick than Eli Apple out of Ohio State. They go and get an offensive tackle to protect Tannehill. Jake Copeland out of Michigan State at pick number 13 to the Dolphins. Now 14, I think Raiders like cornerback here, but I think they go with the better player. Get an inside linebacker to play next to Khalil Mack, Aldon Smith, and Bruce Irvin with Reggie Ragland inside linebacker out of Alabama. He's 6'1", 247-pound senior. I think he'd be a great fit there in Oakland. He goes to the Raiders at 14. Now 15, I think Titans traded down because they knew they could get an offensive lineman they liked at 15 better than they could at number 1. So they trade down, get 6 picks in the first 76 picks, and then I think they like right here Taylor Decker, the 6'7", 310-pounder out of Ohio State. He was a 4-year starter. Could come in and immediately help out the pass protection with Marcus Mariota and also help out the run game with DeMarco Murray. So I think they go Taylor Decker, 15 to the Titans. Lions would have loved Decker, but since there's not an offensive lineman that is worthy of the number 16 pick, I think they go with the receiver that they like here, Laquan Treadwell out of Ole Miss. He's the only receiver they really like in this draft, I'm seeing. 6'2", 220-pounder. He's the best receiver in the draft. He could play next to Marvin Jones, Golden Tate, and Eric Ebron with Matt Stafford throwing in the ball. He's a touchdown machine. He could be an impact day one, number 1 receiver, if not number 2, for the Detroit Lions. Excuse me. So Laquan Treadwell, 16. We're going to do a quick run through. Jared Goff, 1. Carson Wentz, 2 to the Eagles. Jared Goff to the Rams, of course. Laramie Tunsil, 3 to the Chargers. Ezekiel Elliott to the Cowboys. Jalen Ramsey to the Jaguars. Joey Bosa to the Ravens. DeForest Buckner to the 49ers. Miles Jack to the Cleveland Browns. Vernon Hargreaves to the Buccaneers. Ronnie Stanley to the Giants. Leonard Floyd out of Georgia to the Chicago Bears. Sheldon Rankins to the Saints. Jake Coughlin out of Michigan State to the Dolphins. Reggie Ragland out of Alabama to the Raiders. Taylor Decker from Ohio State to the Titans. Laquan Treadwell from Ole Miss to the Detroit Lions. I'm going to go down. Got Falcons on the clock. I think they like Leonard Floyd, the linebacker I have going to Chicago, but he's not available, so I think they go linebacker. Oh, I clicked on D-line. I think they go linebacker here. Get an outside linebacker, pass rusher, a guy that can do it all. Drop back into coverage. He can blitz. He can play the run. He was a cornerback that converted to a linebacker. You never see that. The 6'1", 232-pound redshirt sophomore at Ohio State, Darren Lee. I got him going 17 to the Atlanta Falcons. 18, I think this pick could be traded, but I think ultimately they go and get the defensive lineman they want. Deshaun Robinson, defensive tackle out of Alabama. He's 6'4", 307 pounds. He's a man-child. I think he'd go in and have immediate impact on that defense for Indianapolis. So I think they go Deshaun Robinson. 19, the Bills are thinking, do we take a chance on Robert Ndicme? I think this is the first chance we'll see Robert Ndicme coming off the board. Do we take a chance on him here? Or do we take a chance on Noah Spence, the defensive end out of Eastern Kentucky, who was spent his first 2 years at Ohio State, got in some off-the-field trouble. So he's a risk here, but I think ultimately he's the lesser risk than Ndicme. And I also think he's a better fit for Buffalo to replace Mario Williams, a defensive end. So they go, get him at 19, replace Mario Williams, Noah Spence. And then I think Jets were thinking the same thing. Do we take a chance on Ndicme? Do we take a chance on Spence? Spence ain't available, and they're also worried that they won't be able to get Paxton Lynch with the 40th pick. So that, or not the 40th pick. So, no, 50th pick. So they're concerned there. They can't get Paxton Lynch. So I think they go ahead and take him here at pick number 20 to come in and compete with Geno Smith. If Ryan Fitzpatrick don't come back, they get Paxton Lynch. The Redskins go and fill their defensive line need since there isn't a good enough center to take in the first round. That's their number one need. Number 2 is defensive line. I think they take Jaron Reed, Sean Robinson's teammate out of Alabama. He's 6'3", 307-pound senior. I think he'd be a good replacement for Terrence Knight in there in Washington. So they go ahead and take him 21. Now this is where it gets interesting. 22 Texans, 23 Vikings, 24 Bengals. All 3 need receivers. I think they go in that route of receiver. And for this mock draft, we're going to say they all three do go receiver. So let's click on receiver here. Houston, here the two guys that they like is Corey Coleman out of Baylor and Will Fuller out of Notre Dame. I think they like Coleman more. So they go ahead and get Coleman with the 22nd pick. Go play with Brock Osweiler, Lamar Miller, and DeAndre Hopkins. He'd be a nice compliment. He's a touchdown machine. He's going to be a deep threat. His only disadvantage really is he drops passes. So I think they get Corey Coleman at 22 to play alongside DeAndre Hopkins. Now at 23, we got Minnesota with Josh Doctson being the guy that I think they want the most. I'm hearing they like Laquan Treadwell even more. So I got Laquan Treadwell either falling 16 right here to Detroit or at the absolute worst 23 to Minnesota. But I think he goes 16 to Detroit, and Minnesota gets their other man right here, Josh Doctson, the senior out of TCU, at pick 23. Go play with Teddy Bridgewater, Adrian Peterson, Kyle Rudolph, Charles Johnson, and Stephon Diggs, the other young and wide receiver they got from last year's draft. I think Cincinnati was higher on Josh Doctson, but they have no problem at all right here with Doctson being off the board and Will Fuller being available, the 6-foot, 186-pounder out of Notre Dame. They call him the Road Runner. He ran a 4.340 at the combine. He's a touchdown scoring machine, runs good routes. He's, like I said, a speedster, somebody who can take the top off the defense. And then when you think of deep ball receivers like Will Fuller, A.J. Green, Tyler Eifert is the guys that Andy Dalton's going to be throwing to, and then he's got Jeremy Hill and Giovanni Bernard in the backfield. I think this is a great pick for Will Fuller to land with the Cincinnati Bengals if Josh Doctson isn't available. So they get Fuller. He's a good replacement for Marvin Jones. Doctson, good replacement for Mike Wallace there in Minnesota. Now we got the Steelers on the clock. They're going defensive back. I think they consider the best corner available right now, Eli Apple, which would be a steal at 25, and then safety out of West Virginia, Carl Joseph. Out of West Virginia, he's the best safety in the draft. Would have been easily first-round pick if he would have left his junior year, but he's a team player, came back for his senior year, ended up tearing his ACL, and his draft stock has fallen because he didn't get to participate in the combine. So, with that being said, I think the Steelers replace Troy Polamalu and get Carl Joseph next to Mike Mitchell there in Pittsburgh. They got two good safeties now. All they need is a corner to play next to William Gay. They can easily get a better corner in the second round than they could have got a safety. They get the best safety right here with Carl Joseph at pick 25. Carl Joseph to the Steelers, 26. The Seahawks are now on the clock. I think the Seahawks, no doubt right here with the players that are available, take Robert Ndichme. They just picked up Brandon Browner back at cornerback, so they got Brandon Browner, Richard Sherman, Chancellor, and Thomas. They got Wagner and what's his name? KJ Wright at linebackers. You got Michael Bennett, Cliff Averill, and Robert Ndichme on your defensive line to replace Brandon Maven, who just left in free agency. You get a guy that's 6'3", 295 pounds, absolute animal. Would have been a top 10 pick if it wasn't for off-the-field issues. Seattle gets a steal here at 26. 27. Green Bay Packers. I think they go defensive line, get this guy right here, Andrew Billings out of Baylor, 6'1", 311-pound junior. They replace B.J. Raji right there with Andrew Billings, who retired young at 29 years old for the Green Bay Packers. Chiefs are on the clock now. I've got the Chiefs going cornerback right here, getting the best cornerback in the draft, an absolute steal at pick number 28. Eli Apple, a shutdown corner, the only shutdown corner in this draft other than Jalen Ramsey and Vernon Hargreaves, but they're both top 10 picks. Nobody's really going to get to touch them except for the teams in the top 10 unless you trade up. So I think Kansas City replaces Sean Smith, the cornerback that went to Oakland, right here with the redshirt sophomore Eli Apple out of Ohio State. They get him for sure pick to replace Sean Smith. And now with 29, we got the Cardinals on the clock. I think they want to replace Dwight Freeney on the defensive line. get a pass rusher. Oh, went down way too far. Sorry about that, guys. Just 1 second. Let me get back up on my screen. My program's acting funny right this second. Like I said, I see Arizona going D-line right here, looking for the replacement for Dwight Freeney's role last year. Like I said, they would love to have got Robert Ndicme. The places I think Ndicme could land: 19 Buffalo, 20 New York, 24 Cincinnati, 26 Seattle, absolute latest 29 Arizona. But with that being said, I think they go and get Shaq Lawson, the defensive end out of Clemson, who was a monster last year, was hurt in the national championship. Big reason why Clemson wasn't able to hang in there with Alabama. So I think they get Shaq Lawson. They replace Dwight Freeney and got a young stud in there at pass rusher. Now, Panthers, I think, yeah, they consider here a cornerback because they lost Josh Norman. They got Mackenzie Alexander out of Clemson they could consider here, and William Jackson out of Houston. I think they could honestly get Kendall Fuller, though, who is just as good as those guys at their second round pick 60. So I think they'll go ahead and get Kendall Fuller in the second round, get the better player here in the first round with running back Derrick Henry. He's 6'3", 250-pound Heisman Trophy winning running back, national champion. I think would be a great fit with Carolina. You think about the size they could have: 6'6" Cam Newton, 250 pounds. Derrick Henry, 6'3", 250-pound running back. Greg Olsen at tight end. Kelvin Benjamin at receiver at 6'6". I think this is a great fit and could make Carolina a really, really dangerous offense. So they take Derrick Henry here. I think no doubt with the next pick, Denver goes ahead and gets a quarterback for the future, try to replace Osweiler. And I think they like Hackenberg, but I think Elway likes Cook more. So they end up going with the 31st pick. The former Super Bowl champion Denver Broncos select Connor Cook, the 6'4" quarterback out of Michigan State, with the sure pick for the quarterback of the future. Quick run through as we're finishing the draft now. I know it's been a long video. 16, Laquan Treadwell out of Ole Miss to the Lions. Darren Lee out of Ohio State to Atlanta. Sean Robinson out of Alabama to the Colts. Noah Spence out of EKU to the Bills. Paxton Lynch out of Memphis to the Jets. Jaron Lee, defensive tackle out of Alabama to the Washington Redskins. Corey Coleman, receiver out of Baylor to the Texans. Josh Doxson, receiver out of TCU to the Minnesota Vikings. Will Fuller, wide receiver out of Notre Dame to the Bengals. Carl Joseph, safety out of West Virginia to the Steelers. Robert Ndicme, defensive tackle out of Ole Miss to the Seahawks. Andrew Billings come in and replace B.J. Raji, a defensive tackle for the Green Bay Packers. Eli Apple to come in at corner, replace Sean Smith. For Kansas City, Shaq Lawson replaced Dwight Freeney. In Arizona, Derrick Henry come take the spot from Jonathan Stewart in Carolina, and Connor Cook come be the future quarterback for the Denver Broncos. That is all I've got for this mock draft. Thank you guys for watching so much. Let me know any comments, feeds, anything you guys got. I'm going to do a skit after the draft of reactions, winners, and losers. I'm also going to do an NBA draft as well as skits on the NBA playoffs. So be on look for that, and thank you guys very much again.